The stench of boot blacking hung thick in the air, mixing with the damp rot of an old warehouse where daylight barely reached. There, a 12-year-old boy hunched over a scarred wooden table, his thin fingers mechanically pasting labels onto jar after jar. Rats darted between crates. His back ached. His stomach growled. Once, he had dreamed of sailing uncharted seas and uncovering hidden treasures. Now those dreams lay crushed beneath the weight of endless toil and a shame so deep it threatened to swallow him whole. This boy would rise from the filth to become the voice that awakened the conscience of an empire. His words would expose the hidden cruelties of an age, ignite compassion in frozen hearts, and echo across centuries. This is the epic tale of Charles Dickens. In the early years of the 19th century, Britain pulsed with the raw energy of transformation. Factories devoured the countryside. Cities swelled with the desperate and the ambitious. Amid this churning world, in the port town of Portsmouth in 1812, a child entered a family teetering on the edge of respectability. His father, John, served as a clerk in the Navy Pay Office, a position that carried the illusion of stability but offered little true security. Elizabeth, his mother, infused their home with warmth and lively spirit, telling tales that sparked the boy's vivid imagination. The family moved restlessly, Portsmouth to the bustling streets of London, then to the fresher air of Chatham near the sea. Those Chatham years shimmered like a golden interlude. Young Charles wandered rolling green fields where wildflowers swayed in the breeze. He explored ancient castle ruins, imagining knights and battles long past. Most powerfully, he discovered the boundless realms hidden between the covers of books. His father's modest collection became a portal. Tales of shipwrecked survivors battling nature's fury, enchanted nights filled with genies and flying carpets, heroic quests that stirred his soul. When he read, the ordinary world dissolved. He became the adventurer, the clever survivor, the noble soul conquering impossible odds. Reading lifted him beyond the confines of their modest home into worlds limited only by his imagination. John Dickens recognized this fire in his son. During long walks through town, he encouraged the boy to study the people around them. The weary laborer with calloused hands, the proud merchant masking worry, the quiet widow carrying unspoken grief. Charles absorbed every detail, the tilt of a hat, the tremor in a voice, the flicker of hope in weary eyes. He was learning, without knowing it, the art of seeing humanity in all its complexity. On a hill overlooking Chatham stood a graceful residence known as Gad's Hill Place. It seemed to glow with possibility. One day, pointing toward it, his father spoke words that would anchor themselves in the boy's heart. Work hard enough, and such a home could one day be his. That image became a beacon, a quiet promise amid life's uncertainties. Yet life rarely follows a straight path of gentle ascent. Beneath the surface of family comfort, cracks were widening. John Dickens possessed a generous spirit, but a dangerous habit of living beyond his means. He chased appearances with borrowed money, convinced that prosperity lay just around the corner. Debts accumulated slowly at first, then with crushing speed. The fragile stability the family had known began to fracture. For young Charles, the world he loved was about to be torn apart in ways he could scarcely imagine. The boy who found freedom in stories would soon confront a reality harsher than any villain he had encountered in print. The crisis struck in 1824. Creditors closed in. John Dickens was arrested for unpaid debts and confined to the notorious Marshalsea Debtors Prison. In that era, entire families often accompanied the imprisoned, sharing cramped quarters behind high walls. But 12-year-old Charles was singled out. Instead of joining his parents and siblings, he was sent to work at Warren's blacking factory, a grim establishment producing shoe polish. There, in a dark, rat-infested workspace near a window that offered only a sliver of gray light, he labored 10 hours a day, 6 days a week, for a meager 6 shillings. The work was monotonous and soul-crushing, pasting labels hour after hour while the acrid smell burned his lungs. The contrast tormented him. The boy who had once lost himself in grand adventures now felt invisible, reduced to another cog in a merciless machine. Shame gnawed at him constantly. He wondered why his family had allowed this exile. Feelings of abandonment twisted inside him like a knife. Yet even in that abyss, an unseen transformation was occurring. He observed the other child workers, young faces already etched with despair, futures stolen before they had begun. After exhausting shifts, he wandered London's labyrinthine streets, absorbing a city of stark contradictions. Lavish carriages thundered past children huddled in doorways. Majestic buildings rose beside alleys choked with filth and desperation. He passed forbidding prisons, grim workhouses where the destitute were warehoused, bustling markets filled with raw humanity, and fog so dense it swallowed entire streets. Beggars pleaded. The hungry stared with hollow eyes. Every sensory detail imprinted itself on his memory. The cries, the smells, the casual cruelties of a society that turned its back on its most vulnerable. Those months forged him in fire. London, with all its beauty and brutality, was unconsciously filling his mind with the raw material that would later pour forth in his masterpieces. Then, a modest inheritance arrived for his father, allowing the family's release from prison. Charles was withdrawn from the factory and returned to schooling. But the experience left scars that would never fully fade. He spoke of it to almost no one for the rest of his life, burying the humiliation deep within. Only private writings discovered after his death would reveal the full extent of that pain. What he endured became both his deepest wound and his most potent source of creative power. School offered structure, but the restless energy within him demanded more. He took a position as a clerk in a law office, yet the tedious pace of legal proceedings felt suffocating. Determined to break free, he mastered the intricate art of shorthand, transforming spoken words into swift symbols. This skill propelled him into journalism. He reported on fiery parliamentary debates, traveled the country covering elections and public events, capturing the pulse of a nation in flux with clarity, vigor, and sharp insight. Editors and readers began to notice the young writer, whose prose seemed to breathe with life itself. In 1833, a pivotal moment arrived. He submitted a short story to a magazine. When it was accepted and printed, joy overwhelmed him. He walked the streets of London for hours that night, tears streaming down his face, not from sorrow, but from the profound realization that his words had found an audience. More stories followed, each one resonating with readers hungry for tales that honored ordinary lives. His unique blend of humor, pathos, and unflinching social observation set him apart. By 1836, at only 24, he launched his first major work, a novel released in serialized monthly parts. The public response was electric. Readers across the social spectrum awaited each installment with feverish anticipation, discussing characters as if they were living acquaintances. Fame descended rapidly, transforming the former factory boy into a literary sensation. That same year, he married Catherine Hogarth, and their family grew swiftly, eventually encompassing 10 children. The weight of responsibilities only fueled his prodigious output. He wrote with relentless discipline, often late into the night, balancing family life with an unyielding creative drive. Over the following decades, he produced an astonishing body of work that captured the Victorian era in all its complexity. One novel followed the harrowing journey of a destitute orphan navigating the underbelly of London, highlighting the plight of abandoned children with such force that it moved readers to outrage and empathy. Another tale, composed in an intense burst of just 6 weeks, centered on a miserly old man visited by spectral figures on a fateful Christmas Eve. These visitations forced him to confront his past, present, and potential future, ultimately melting his icy heart and embracing generosity. This story did more than entertain. It helped redefine an entire holiday, shifting Christmas from a modest observance into a season of warmth, family reunion, and charitable spirit that continues to shape traditions worldwide. He crafted a semi-autobiographical masterpiece about a young man's struggles and triumphs, drawing deeply from personal experiences while universalizing them. Other works explored ambition and class, the chaos of revolution, and the intricate webs of society, law, and justice. Memorable figures sprang to life on every page. Comic, tragic, grotesque, and deeply human. What distinguished his writing was its unwavering focus on the marginalized. He did not romanticize kings or glorify battles. Instead, he shone a lantern into the shadows where factory children toiled, debtors languished, and the poor fought for dignity. His narratives compelled readers to feel the weight of injustice, stirring consciences and planting seeds for reform. Laws and attitudes toward child labor, prison conditions, and education began to shift, influenced in part by the emotional power of his stories. Beyond the page, he channeled his energy into public performances. Standing before packed auditoriums, he brought his characters to vivid existence. His voice shifted seamlessly between accents and emotions. He whispered secrets, thundered indictments, laughed with mischief, and wept with sorrow. Audiences were spellbound, experiencing laughter and tears within the same evening. These readings took him across Britain and twice to America, where crowds greeted him like a hero. In New York Harbor, admirers gathered in droves. Ticket lines stretched for hours. His magnetic presence turned literature into theater, forging a direct connection with the public that few writers have ever matched. Success, however, carried hidden costs. The boy who had once pasted labels in obscurity now bore the immense pressure of constant creation, public expectation, and familial obligations. He edited periodicals, organized charitable efforts, delivered passionate speeches on social issues, and maintained an exhausting schedule of tours. The old wounds from childhood never fully healed. They fueled his empathy, but also drove him relentlessly. Friends urged rest. Physicians warned of collapse. Yet he pressed forward, as if stopping would betray the child he had been. In time, he fulfilled the boyhood vision. He acquired Gad's Hill Place, the elegant home on the hill that had symbolized possibility. There, surrounded by the tangible proof of his ascent, he continued working amid gardens and memories. But the body that had survived factory labor could not endure endless strain forever. In 1870, at 58, during a family dinner, a sudden stroke struck. He collapsed and slipped away the following day on June 9th. News of his passing swept across Britain and beyond. Streets fell quiet. Shops shuttered in respect. Ordinary citizens, the very people he had immortalized, gathered to mourn. He received a burial in Westminster Abbey, resting among the nation's most revered figures, yet his request for simplicity was honored in spirit. His funeral drew quiet processions of the humble and the great alike. Flowers accumulated at his grave as people from all walks paid tribute to the man who had given voice to their struggles. Charles Dickens had begun life in darkness, hands stained and spirit tested, yet he emerged carrying a light that illuminated society's failings and its potential for redemption. His works continue to resonate because they capture universal truths, the resilience of the human spirit, the cost of indifference, and the transformative power of kindness and imagination. Through his lens, generations have confronted poverty not as abstract statistics, but as lived suffering demanding response. His influence extended far beyond literature, contributing to tangible improvements in social conditions. He demonstrated that a single voice, tempered in hardship, could challenge empires and awaken empathy on a massive scale. The wound of his early years became the wellspring of his genius, proving that our deepest pains, when alchemized through creativity and courage, can heal not only ourselves, but countless others. What remains most enduring is the quiet challenges life poses to each of us. In moments of despair, when circumstances seem insurmountable, do we surrender or endure? Can the shadows we navigate become the source of our greatest illumination? Charles Dickens turned personal anguish into stories that still comfort the afflicted and confront the powerful. His legacy reminds us that history is shaped not only by grand events, but by individuals who refuse to let their inner light be extinguished. As you reflect on this journey from factory floor to immortal renown, consider your own path. What unseen struggles are forging your character today? What stories within you are waiting to be told? Share your thoughts below. What aspect of his life resonates most deeply with you? And how does it inspire your own perseverance? Every voice adds to the ongoing narrative of human resilience. This tale of transformation stands as testament to the enduring power of words and the unyielding human spirit. Keep seeking, keep creating, and remember that even in the darkest rooms, a single determined